Senior citizens and the elderly are the ideal targets for investment fraud for many reasons. Investment fraud can also happen to the smartest, most savvy investors, and it does every day. Protect your future. Protect your money.
I liked what was offered, the way it was offered. I thought it was ironclad. It was not.
It's very hard to imagine that they are trying to take your money.
And the lawyer pretty much said, your money is gone. That was like, whoa, a slap in the face.
I'm stunned for words right now.
It blindsided me because I wasn't expecting that.
I gather all this information and take it to Dad, and it's like I smacked him with a ton of bricks.
I've been an investigator a long time, but I don't care. This can happen to anybody.
A lot of people are looking for someplace that's safe to park their money when they get older.
Because now you're in your retirement years and you need to make sure that you're going to be safe, that you're going to be comfortable.
You start with the fact that most of the wealth in any community resides in people over 60 years old. Perhaps not as skeptical as they were in their younger days, perhaps not as clear thinking as they were in their younger days. So they're a vulnerable community, but they're also a wealthy community. Makes them a perfect target.
The mission of the New Mexico's Securities Division is to reduce the incidence of investment fraud and financial abuse by providing investors with the information and resources needed to make informed decisions about their investments.
The New Mexico Securities Division is not here to give you financial advice. We can't tell you what a good investment is and what a bad investment is. What we're here to do is to protect the investor from unscrupulous people that are going to take advantage of you, confidence men. We'll just call them bad guys. That's what we're here for.
The Securities Division tries to identify and prosecute people that abuse investors, abuse consumers by tricking them or lying to them into giving them their money.
In virtually every con, scheme, or scam, there are always red flags.
When someone approaches you and you get that ill feeling that something's wrong, that's because they're indicators. We call them red flags.
You may not recognize it expressly as a warning sign, but some little twinge goes off in your brain that I need to check this out or I'm a little bit uncomfortable. And people need to follow their instincts and check it out carefully then before they proceed with the investment.
A lot of those red flags will be things like time imperatives. This is a limited time offering, you have to act now. The other red flag warning would be if someone were to say, I have a great deal. You can get in and your certain amount of return will be 7%. But if we get more money, it'll be 10%. And if we could get even more money, so contact all your friends and we can have a big pot of money and we'll get even more money. It's another red flag. A lot of scams are perpetrated through seminars. The scam may not be whatever the presentation is, but the scam may be later when you approach someone and you're interested.
Investors should be leery whenever something looks too good to be true. If they're promising to double your money, triple your money, if they're promising you 25% when you know that your bank account and your little savings account is paying you 0.25%, you know that I should be looking at this a little bit harder. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't trust the person. It doesn't mean any of that, but you should be questioning it.
You know, if it seems too good to be true, it generally is. So if you really want it to be true, because you need it to be true, probably not a good idea.
Knowledge is the best protection from investment fraud, and the New Mexico Securities Division website is an excellent resource to learn how to protect your money.
First and foremost, it's your money. Ask questions. Ask as many questions as possible. Tough questions. How are you going to generate this interest? What's your business history? What exactly do you intend to do with the money that I invest with you?
If you ask for information, additional information, and they can't get it for you, that's suspicious.
New Mexico investors are encouraged to call the New Mexico Securities Division anytime they're suspicious of an investment. We can let you know if the investment and the individual offering the investment is registered with the state of New Mexico. Check before you invest.
It's always easier to prevent your money from going out than get it back once it's gone.
Investigate before you invest. Check if the securities themselves are registered.
If it is a security and it's not registered with us, then that's a big red flag. That's a big red flag.
If someone's a legitimate broker-dealer or investment advisor, they'll register in the state. And so we'll know. People that are offering security products that haven't registered, that's a red flag.
You can ask, is this broker or this investment advisor registered in the state? Have they had any complaints? That's a big red flag.
The use of names of public figures, well-known personalities, is a trick that is used to get people to buy into the idea.
I don't know if you need to be leery of your friends, but if your friends are asking you for a lot of money, you might want to ask some questions.
Listen to them. They may have good ideas, but now verify what they're going to do with the money. So trust but verify. Check it before you invest. It's pretty simple principles.
Never assume anything. Read the investment contracts and literature and understand the risks before you give someone your money. The key to protecting yourself is proactive action.
We have a whole bunch of cases where the purchaser, the victim, was provided some sort of documents that describe what the investment is and all the risks. And all the risks are in there, but they don't bother to read it. It's essential that people read these contracts. There should be no problems in someone selling a security and giving you all the paperwork ahead of time. Have anyone else take a look at it to find out what they say. We do that on a regular basis. People fax us things, people mail us things saying, hey, I got this in the mail, or I got this offering, these claims seem a little outlandish, can you check on it? It's your taxpayer money's at work, and they are professionals in their field. They do know what they're talking about.
Once you feel or think that you're gonna lose money, the longer you wait, the less chance you have of getting it back. And so one lesson is always get in early, get a lawyer, get in court, start sending those letters and demanding payment, create that track record showing that you've tried to get your money back. You got to get that early. If you wait, you're going to end up with nothing.
It doesn't take hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake. It doesn't take millions. A small amount of money, one victim, and we will look into it, and we will pursue aggressively anyone who is violating the Securities Act or who is committing fraud.
My advice about financial things is always, if you don't have the money to lose, then you better not have the money to invest.
Don't put your trust in any one person. You know, look into it a little further than what is given to you by the salesperson.
There's so much involved. It's just absurd. It really is to go through all this. I hope it never happens to anybody else.
Well, I've known Jerry Beery since I was a kid from church, so that's a long time.
A gentleman who was retired from the laboratories in Los Alamos, who was very well known in the community.
Dad did know him. He was a co-worker at the lab. Talking to Beery, they were close friends.
He's a remarkably personable, kind person, which is really hard to imagine that a person who's like that can have gone off the deep end.
In 2010, Jerome Beery used his personal relationship with several friends to solicit investment money primarily for the purpose of remodeling and reselling homes.
was approaching people claiming that he was investing in rehabbing houses or investing in a particular type of fund through another agency, and that if they wanted to, he'd be glad to invest their money into these projects and that he would pay them an interest rate in return.
Well, when he borrowed the money in the first place, yes, he said he was remodeling a house in Albuquerque.
I found out, I guess probably a year after my father started investing with Mr. Beery, that he was making an investment. He was quote unquote good at what he was doing. He knew when to buy and when to sell and was doing very well and was able to pay him 24%. And it was kind of like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, 2010, this is the time frame. I mean, what was going on in the financial markets then? Who makes 24% anywhere? You know, if you could find somebody who would make 6% in a year, they were doing tremendously well. Yet here, Beery is paying 24%. Huge flag. How Dad would fall for something like this is just mind-boggling.
One of Jerome Beery's investors called the New Mexico Securities Division because of their concerns about the legitimacy of these investments.
Mr. Beery had approximately 15 people in the Los Alamos area to which he was offering and selling promissory notes.
Initially, it looked like just a normal transaction between friends where someone lent someone a little bit money, but after looking into it, our agent came back and reported this is a pattern, and this person has done it more than once, and the amounts of money are getting to be pretty high.
He borrowed $10,000 from me at that point, and yeah, he had a promissory note where he said he was going to pay me 12% interest, and he'd pay me, you know, $100 a month.
And when the note termed, Beery used the trust and confidence he had obtained to get them to renew the note and add additional money to the investment.
And then later he borrowed more. I think the total was $25,000.
And so now he'd invested $20,000 at 24%. They sold their house because they were living in assisted living, and they then, quote unquote, gave Beery another $30,000, up to $50,000 now.
The investigation revealed Mr. Beery was offering promissory notes to his investors.
A promissory note is a security. When they issue a promissory note in exchange for money, they have to comply with the Securities Act. He hadn't registered for securities. He hadn't registered the promissory notes as securities. And as it turned out, he was not giving people accurate information.
Mr. Beery had failed to tell his investors that he had a felony conviction.
He was using the money for his living expenses rather than the projects he was promising. Sometimes he was using the money he gathered that day to pay interest back to that same investor and other investors, which is essentially a Ponzi scheme.
Once he got the last investment, he stopped making interest payments and said, I just can't pay you anymore. Sorry.
Jerry disappeared. He never has talked, to this day, never talked to my father for the rest of his life, and to this day has never talked to my mother.
The money goes fast. They do not keep it in a bank account in the local community. Therefore, it's out of the reach of law enforcement agencies like ours, and it's out of the reach, unfortunately, of the consumers who have lost the money on almost every case.
No restitution. When Mom and Dad gave Jerry the letter, we want our money back, that was the end of any payments.
Affinity fraud is all too common with the elderly and often goes unreported until it is too late.
The Beery case represents a very common form of fraud that we see not just in New Mexico but across the country. And it falls into two categories that we typically call. One is affinity fraud, where someone who you know really well, a family member, someone you met at church, takes advantage of your relationship to get your money. The other category this falls in is elder fraud, where they take advantage of people who are older, perhaps not as skeptical as they were in their younger days, perhaps not as clear thinking as they were in their younger days.
And one of the most difficult things to convey to a prosecutor in cases like this is what the victims feel. The abuse of trust, the violation of the trust and confidence that these people have given to the con men.
It's really hard to imagine that he would deliberately do such a thing, and I really honestly still have a hard time believing it.
I'll do a little investigation on this guy. This was a simple Google search. I mean, you know, from 1976 when he had his Chapter 7 bankruptcy through 2011 was just full of various court cases. And what's even worse is that, you know, I gather all this information on Barry, none of it good, all detrimental, and take it to Dad, and it's like I smacked him with a ton of bricks.
I don't know if you need to be leery of your friends, but if your friends are asking you for a lot of money, you might want to ask some questions.
Listen to them. They may have good ideas, but now verify what they're going to do with the money. If they're going to rehab a real estate project, go see the project, touch it. Make sure that they actually have a contract to rehab it or that they own it. That's a simple matter of checking out a few records. So trust but verify. Check it before you invest. Just pretty simple principles.
I want to trust my friends, you know, and I want to be able to think at least they had good intentions. I want to think that Jerry had good intentions and did not intend to actually steal people's money. I look at the reality of it and it looks like he deliberately stole people's money. It baffles me.
Village South Hotels was a New Mexico company owned by former Santa Fe Mayor Arthur Trujillo, former Governor Tony Anaya, and R.J. Brought, and was created for the purpose of developing a 21-acre commercial real estate development in Angel Fire, New Mexico. Though the project began with legitimate intentions, the real estate crash of 2008 changed everything.
This investment looked like a very good idea. Angel Fire did need overnight accommodations in a resort town, another good restaurant.
I mean, this was supposed to be the largest resort in the Southwest. In Angel Fire, it was going to attract people from all over the country. Some of the local community, before they bought into this investment, looked at it and said, well, there probably is a need up there. This will help the state. This will create jobs. This will do all these good things, and I'm going to make money.
And when you throw in 2 former governors and former mayor of Santa Fe, it looks like you just can't go wrong with this.
Anytime someone says you can double your money or triple your money over a short period of time, you think about whether or not you want to do it.
Village South Hotels started out as a legitimate project for investments. They had good intentions and just they didn't have the know-how and didn't really follow the rules in how to go about raising the capital and putting the project together.
It looked like an opportunity to help the state. You're going to develop this resort, and you're going to be a backer of it, and you're going to get a whole bunch of money out of it at the end of the day. And in reality, that didn't happen.
Financing for new projects became difficult to find.
They couldn't get additional money from a bank. They couldn't attract a credit facility because the market was tanking. Banks didn't want to lend a substantial amount of money to a new venture.
The desire to keep the Village South Hotels project alive with individual investor dollars created a web of deceit and became a testament to the power of using celebrity names to entice investors to part with their money.
The use of names of public figures, well-known personalities, is a trick that is used to get people to buy into the idea.
One day I went to pay my State Farm insurance on my vehicle, and I was approached by my agent that I wanted to invest some money. And I said, not really.
So one thing that went to investors before they bought was a business plan. And in that business plan, there was listed certain folks. who backed it.
But when he mentioned two ex-governors, Tony Anaya and Jerry Apodaca, that got me interested. And then when he mentioned the federal judge here in Silver City, that cinched it right there.
And if you've heard of that person, they've got a strong reputation in your state and your local community, something like that, you might think that it's safe to give them your money. And that might be the only factor you're investing on. You're not investing on the product that's being sold to you or the risk that's being sold to you. You're buying that product based on that face, that name.
And then Art Trujillo on his own solicited a promissory note with a friend of his, Fran Carlson, who lives out of state.
I've known Art since 1967. He asked for $32,000 for this Village South project. He'd pay us back within 6 or 8 months or no more than a year. And my husband and Art get along great together. And he said, if Art needs the money, send him the money. So we thought, okay, this is okay.
Had the investors checked, they would have known that these were not registered, they weren't licensed, there was nothing official documenting these.
You have the big politicos who are involved, so it looks credible. And then you have a trusted friend selling it to you, absolutely. You think that they're going to have your interest at stake.
When investors began to ask for their promised return on their investment, the owners stalled them to buy more time.
Many of the victims wait far too long before they report what had happened. This happens because the person who was soliciting the investments gives them excuses or ups the ante. They'll issue a new promissory note or a new stock certificate or something promising a greater return than the original one. Whether they have any intentions of ever paying that or not, it buys them time and helps run out the statute of limitations.
Getting nowhere with Mr. Trujillo, he stopped returning my calls.
And when nothing came, and he says, the check's in the mail, never came, we knew. And I didn't have any great facts except a feeling.
Once you feel or think that you're going to lose money, the longer you wait, the less chance you have of getting it back. And so one lesson is always, in a case like this, get in early, get a lawyer, get in court, start sending those letters and demanding payment, create that track record showing that you've tried to get your money back. You got to get that early. If you wait, you're going to end up with nothing.
If I had filed a claim a couple years earlier, that I would have been part of the lawsuit. And I wasn't aware of the lawsuit either.
Some got paid back partially, and some got paid back nothing.
My husband and I have invested $32,000. I have received nothing in return.
For the $20,000 that I loaned for 120 days, I was supposed to get $45,000. I got $10,000 before I got the lawyer involved.
He was promised that his money was going to more than double, and he was excited about that. And then he ended up with some major health problems and had to cash out an insurance policy to pay for the medical side of things. So you see somebody who couldn't afford to just hand $20,000 over.
I had plans for that money. I had been saving for a long time. Well, I learned the hard way.
Under the guise of a patriotic investment opportunity, Voyager Financial Group was recruiting uninformed financial advisors to sell a win-win investment. Money collected from an investor was used as a lump sum payment to veterans in return for signing over their monthly government benefit payments.
Voyager Financial Group, that goes by VFG, was actively trying to locate veterans through internet searches and things of that nature. And they would really solicit their services for those veterans to be able to receive a lump sum payment for some of their pension cash flow or disability cash flow.
What VFG did not disclose was the fact that veterans' benefits are protected by law and cannot be assigned or sold to anyone for any reason. In simple terms, the investment was illegal.
What Voyager did here is they sold something that they couldn't sell under federal law. That a veteran cannot sell their benefit, their pension, their VA benefit under federal law.
Those funds were unassignable. They are protected by law. They were issued by Congress to our veterans.
Voyager Financial Group's slick marketing made the investment product look and seem legitimate. And they sought out less informed financial advisors, like tax preparers and insurance agents, to sell the product to their clients.
VFG put together a package that they can market to a third party. They were very careful to not trigger securities law.
They're targeting your mom and pop investment advisors, your mom and pop brokers, your mom and pop insurance agents who maybe don't have the sophistication to analyze this product adequately before they sell it and market it to their clients.
Voyager found one financial advisor in New Mexico to sell this product. Sid Evans, owner of Equity Advisors, sold the VFG investment to 8 New Mexico investors for a total of over $650,000 and collected over $34,000 in commission.
An individual from that firm spoke with Mr. Evans and just really sold him on what an opportunity it was.
When you're a fiduciary, when you're an investment advisor, you do have to know what you're selling. And I don't think he did enough homework here to understand the risk that this product had.
And Mr. Evans then offered that to his clients.
At the time, I trusted Mr. Evans. After all, he had prepared my taxes for 2 or 3 years. He said, if I could give you a real low risk, moderate return investment, would you be interested in it? Well, it sounds good to me. How low is the risk? He says, almost no risk.
Sid was really sincere in what he was conveying to me, and I just believed him. So it looked legal to me.
A way of selling it was to wave sort of the American flag, as if some of the victims were being patriotic and lending these veterans money, because the poor veterans, some of them are suffering from post-traumatic, stress disorders, and they have problems, and this is a way of helping them.
My beloved husband being a veteran, I just wanted to be there for them and help them out.
The original investment was $34,000 and change. And at the end of 6 years, I was supposed to have already received back in payments $41,000 and change. That looked real good to me. I mean, this is solid, right? I mean, I can't lose.
Part of that sales process was, hey, they're being paid by the United States government. The U.S. government's never going to default. They're going to pay them, so this is a sure thing. And that's just not true.
They're getting screwed because they're buying something that they think is safe and guaranteed by the United States, but really, under federal law, this can't happen.
The end investor never really had a claim on that money.
And there's no way, since it's illegal, this contract is illegal, it violates public policy, you can't enforce that contract if the veteran defaults.
So if a veteran files bankruptcy, there's no recourse.
Because the investment was, in essence, illegal, the veterans were not bound by the agreement, and many defaulted. This meant the investors' money was unprotected, and there was no legal recourse to try to reclaim the money.
The first payment was very late. I actually even called Mr. Evans a few times and talked to them over there. I haven't received anything here. So they got on it, and I received a payment. So then we got one more payment of $575. So that was 2. That's the last payment I ever got.
Yeah, I got payments for about maybe 4 months, and then it stopped.
She put everything that she had into it. She took what her husband had saved for her in their retirement. He had passed away. She really thought that this was a great opportunity with great returns, and she withdrew all her money from her other financial advisor and bought 2 of these contracts. And within a year and a half, they both defaulted, and she has no recourse.
Out of the $140,000 that I put into the investment, I received about $1,400, and that was it. And the lawyer pretty much said, your money is gone. That was like, whoa, a slap in the face.
Mr. Evans sold a number of contracts in the state. Most of those individuals were in retirement. They were using their nest egg.
I invested over $34,000. I received $1,100 back in change, and the rest was lost. At the time, it was about half of what I had saved. And there's nothing I can do about it. Grin and bear it.
You're investing people's hopes and dreams, things that they have worked their entire life for, things that they're counting on for the rest of their life. And the fact that this could be so twisted and so easily taken from people it's a crime.